Hi, my name is Marc. I'm publisher of Cannabis Culture magazine, and beside me is my wife and co-editor Jodie, Emerys, and we're here with Al, who's just going to smoke us up before we start our video.
Very nice looking piece of glass, like we've got all over in our store.
Some excellent hash in there. What kind of hash is that, Al?
It is Purple Kush mixed with some Louis.
Purple Kush mixed with Louis. Well, starting the show. Here we are. The new issue is out, and there it is. It's issue number 74. And Jodie, tell us about it.
Well, it's the issue before our issue 75, which we're working on now, but we've got some great articles in here. First of all, Marc got an almanac named after him down in Puerto Rico.
In Spanish.
So he puts that in his editor's letter, and you can read about it there.
Yeah, I know. I'm so honored to have an almanac named after me. The Almanac Marc Emerys. Hopefully it's going to be an annual product put out in Puerto Rico. It contains all sorts of cultural history of Puerto Rico, environmental history.
Kind of like a farmer's almanac,
yeah,
but in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, named after me with my picture on the front. It's so awesome.
We have a California cannabis tour. Our friend Stephanie, who writes about travels and parties all over the world, has this great article about going down to LA and trimming pot out in California's fields. And we've got a great article with more show your grow. We have these beautiful buds from people, and send in your bud shots to get in Cannabis Culture magazine. And we've also got this excellent spread. This photographer and slash grower is really excellent, from Spain. So we've got these beautiful, beautiful bud shots. Absolutely fantastic. And we also have a great article by Barry Cooper of Never Get Busted, the ex-cop.
Trapping bad cops.
He's out there getting corrupt cops and exposing them for using illegal methods to get people in cages. As Barry Cooper says, many Americans are put behind bars with police corruption and lying and all sorts of evil stuff going on. So he's out there to expose it, to make up for being a cop himself back in the old days.
We love Barry, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah,
this magazine will be in your hemp stores next week across the United States and Canada, and will be on newsstands in early, it's March now, early April. It won't actually be out until April 2nd on newsstands, but you can get it at the BC Marijuana Party headquarters here right now, and in hemp stores across the United States and Canada next week. And please buy it, because unfortunately one of our two major distributors in the United States filed for bankruptcy, Anderson News Service, and they handle like 25 to 30% of all our magazines, as they do all magazines across the United States. And since they've been dissolved, it's thrown the industry into chaos. So along with declining ad revenues, not affecting us necessarily, and this new distribution wrinkle going on in the United States, magazines will show lower sales across the board. So please get out and buy our magazine, and tell others to buy our magazine, and encourage your newsstand to get our magazine if they don't currently handle it. That's really important. And we're looking for places that do handle our magazine. So if you're anywhere in the United States and you buy our magazine, send us an email at Jodie or Marc at CannabisCulture.com and tell us where it's for sale, so we can add it to our store locator, so other people can find that store and buy our magazine. So, you know, it's interactive here. We need you to tell your retailer to get our magazine, and we need to know where you're currently buying our magazine on the newsstand. And look for our bright, what is that, maroon?
Right, no, this is bright pink and orange.
Bright pink and orange cover.
But it's a beautiful bud submitted to us from a random guy on the internet. He goes to our forums, I believe, and he sent this beautiful bud with these glistening pink and white hairs all over. It's gorgeous.
Now, we don't just make a magazine here. We're a whole activist center here at 307 West Hastings in downtown Amsterdam. And Jodie and I have been doing, Jodie had a project that was so successful recently. She developed this wonderful brochure called How Do We End Gang Violence. She developed some fabulous signs associating organized crime with the prohibition problem. And then we marched down to where Stephen Harper was giving a speech only 3 blocks away, and got in all the national news on CBC, CTV, Global, and in all the newspapers. Wonderful page 2 article with Jodie.
Stephen Harper is Canada's Prime Minister, for any viewers who aren't aware of this. He leads the Conservative Party in Canada, and basically he wants to be like George Bush. They've introduced mandatory minimum sentences called Bill C-15, where if you can grow 1 plant, you'll get 6 months in prison. And if you're in a neighborhood or a rental house, that would be 9 months in prison. Mandatory. And America is even repealing insane mandatory minimum laws, whereas our government...
Like in New York State, they're repealing the Rockefeller laws.
but they're just starting to introduce it again here. We've been fighting it for a couple years. This used to be called Bill C-26. We killed that bill, and we need to kill this bill too. It's the same thing.
Unfortunately, we have a gang phenomena going on. There's been 20 shootings in Vancouver in the past 2.5 months, all related to organized crime, which of course is exploiting prohibition and carrying out all their dastardly acts under the current policy that we've had in Canada for 70 years, that all the politicians in government have supported and now created and manufactured this crime, and now they want to make it worse by making mandatory sentences in jail for gangs and for people who distribute and grow marijuana. And so the laws are getting ratcheted up here, and of course some people out there might think, well, it's good to sentence gangs to mandatory minimums. Actually, that's not true. Prisons are one of the best, if not the best, recruitment center for gangs. Every time someone new goes into prison, they're encouraged and rather coerced into joining a gang, and the gangs don't just operate in the prison, they operate outside of the prison. So when people get released from prison, their nearest and dearest friends are often fellow gang members they met in prison. So sending people to prison only get them to join gangs. It only increases gang violence and gang membership. It makes the prisons far more dangerous, so you're not solving any of your social problems by sending people who are in gangs to jail. What you want to do is stop manufacturing the source of gangs, and that is drug prohibition. And until we get rid of drug prohibition, not a single government policy will have any deterrence on gang violence or gang membership.
It's only getting worse, as we see in Mexico. The more that they bring in the military, the more U.S. aid for going after these drug cartels, the more that they try and do, the worse the problem is. And I keep saying, we're going to see Canada turn into Mexico North if we don't stop this. Our city has not had problems like it's having now with the gun violence and killings. We haven't seen that before that I'm aware of, and the only thing that's gotten worse is the drug enforcement. Back in the early 90s and 2000s, there wasn't a lot of enforcement. The police were letting compassion clubs operate. They weren't really cracking down the same way they are now, and as they crack down more, the gang problems get worse.
What are we doing about it? Jodie is a candidate in the